The first time Elena Ward looked at me like I was the last rung on a ladder, we were standing in the wind behind Holloway's Hardware. Cold air cut through the line of parked trucks. The gravel lot smelled like oil and old rain. She stood there with her arms folded, tight across her chest, like she was holding herself together with her own ribs. Her dark hair was pulled back, jaw set hard, eyes sharper than any tool in my truck. She had just watched me tell Robert Sterling no. He owned half the town on paper. He was used to people bending when he smiled. 30 minutes earlier, he had tried the same thing on me inside the store. He wanted me to adjust my work schedule on Elena's house and rethink the price. He said it like he was doing me a favor. I told him no in front of 3 witnesses. Now Elena stared at me like she was trying to figure out if that word was going to save her or ruin her. "Why did you do that?" she asked. Her voice was low and controlled, like she had to keep a lid on it. "I can't pay rush fees. I can barely keep fuel in the generator." Quote, "I didn't ask for rush fees," I said. "We already have a contract for the roof." She pressed the words like she was testing them for cracks. "Just the roof. And I'm not staying up there, Caleb. We are strictly professional." The boundary was not rude, it was panic with manners. "Professional," I repeated. "Fine, good. I am a builder, not your problem." "I don't need a hero," she said. "I need a builder." "Lucky for you, I build things," I said. I nodded toward her car. "Your left rear tire is soft. First hard freeze and it will slide. Propane tank is sitting right under that lean." Color drained from her face. She hit the unlock on her key fob. Papers slid off the passenger's seat and into view. County Courthouse letterhead. Bold black stamps. Language that did not belong in a small-town parking lot. I did not touch them. I read what was visible. Judgment. Debt. Lien. Her shoulders dropped, like she had been holding them up by force. "My ex-husband hid debt," she said quietly. Then he left. The judge split it anyway. "If I can't refinance, the lien hits in 60 days. Quote. Her hands shook as she gathered the pages. "I can't refinance without clear title," she went on. "I can't clear title until Sterling's survey claim dies. And if I can't sell this house at a real price, I don't get free. Sterling knows that. He is trying to force a fire sale." "You're not just protecting a house," I said. "I'm protecting my exit," she answered. Right then, Sterling's black SUV rolled up beside her sedan like a shark gliding in, window down. Calm smile on his face like none of the words on her papers mattered. He held out a thick envelope. "Monday," he said. "County building. Bring your checkbook." Or we let the lien clock do its work. Elena took the envelope with a stiff jaw and did not open it. My brain reminded me this was a civil mess. No sirens. No one bleeding. Just ink, time, and pressure. Men like Sterling loved calendars. They knew most people broke before the deadline. I could have walked away. Her problem was not in my contract. The roof was. But I have never been good at watching something collapse when I know exactly where the support should go. "I'll be there at 7, I said. She looked at me like she was not sure she heard right. 7? "We start with the wall," I said, safety first. 7, she repeated, like it was the only solid thing she had to hold on to. The Ward place sat up a narrow gravel drive that used to be a road. Weathered clapboard siding. Porch posts a little out of line. One deck corner sagged like a bad promise. The yard sloped toward the foundation, and the downspouts dumped water straight at the house like they were aiming for the crawl space. I pulled in at 7 on the dot. She met me on the porch with a clipboard hugged to her chest like a shield. Her hair was pulled back again. Her eyes were tired but sharp. She handed me a mug of coffee without a smile. "Roof first," she said. "Roof later," I said, stepping onto the boards and feeling the subtle give under my boots. "This first." She tensed. "The contract is for the roof." "The contract does not matter if you fall through your own porch," I said. I crouched by the post and traced a crack at the base with my finger. The deck corner was sinking. The post looked fine on the outside, but the weight was not traveling right. You can feel that after a few years of this work. Deck corner is dropping, I said. We jack it, crib it, replace the post, and pull water away from the foundation. That's extra, she said. That's survival, I answered. Storm is rolling in. You want Sterling's lawyer and your bank to hear your house took water damage while there is a lien on it? Quote, the word bank cut through whatever argument she had been ready to make. She moved aside. The small step felt like reluctant permission. Inside, the house smelled like old pine, dust, and a faint hint of lavender. The living room floor creaked under my boots, but it held. There was a space heater humming in the hallway, and the furnace closet door sat open, panels off like someone had given up halfway through. The furnace kicks on, then shuts off, she said. Last guy wanted $3 grand. Last guy did not want to crawl, I muttered. I set my tool bag down and did what I always did when the air around me felt tight. I laid my tools in a straight line on the floor. Meter, screwdrivers, nut drivers, probe, each one parallel, each one within easy reach. I took a slow breath, held it, and let it out. The small orders steadied my hands. Elena watched from the doorway. She did not say anything, but her shoulders eased a little, like the neat row of tools made the chaos inside her head quiet down for a second. The board in the furnace was not dead. A safety switch was tripping the system. I traced the pressure line with my fingers, checked the inducer, found a kinked hose, cleared a clogged trap, reset the connections, and cleaned the flame sensor until it shined. I hit the switch. The igniter glowed, burners lit in a clean, even line. A moment later, warm air rolled out into the hall. Elena's breath caught. She stepped closer like she was afraid if she moved too fast, the heat would vanish again. Her fingers hovered above the vent, then pulled back, then reached out again, like she did not trust comfort yet. It's running, she said. Yeah, I answered. It's running. She lifted her eyes to mine. For the first time that day, her gaze was steady, not darting. Show me you can do that to everything else, she said. It came out half a challenge, half a plea. I wiped my hands on a rag. Show me Sterling's paperwork. She hesitated, then set the thick envelope on the kitchen table and opened it. Inside was a letter on legal letterhead, notice of intent to file, maps, a survey sketch. Sterling was claiming a strip of land down by the creek, the only flat spot where a new septic system could go. The same spot buyers had asked about, if she ever sold. Who did your old survey? I asked. Tom Hensley, she said. He's retired now. I studied the map. The line in Sterling's claim was too clean, too perfect for his needs. That never made me comfortable. We verify the old markers, I said. With what? She asked. A prayer? With paper and proof, I said, and with the land itself. Her eyes flicked to the lien notice sticking out of her folder, then back to my face. She looked at me like a drowning person, looking at a rope she did not trust. I did not reach for her papers. I did not grab the folder. I stepped back from the table, giving her space. You decide, I said. If you want me in this, I'm in. If you don't, I fix the roof, you pay me, and I drive away. She stared at the documents for a long beat, then at me, like she was searching for the trick. Then she slid a worn manila folder across the table. Inside were Hensley's notes, sketches, and an old Polaroid of a mossy stone by the creek with a shallow chisel mark on it. In, she said, like she was signing a deal with herself, not with me. Right then I knew two things. 1. This job was not just about a roof anymore. 2. Strictly professional had just become a lot more complicated. By noon, the deck corner looked as tired as Elena did. I stripped the boards away until the rotten post showed itself. Up close, it was not a post anymore, just wet mush sitting in cold mud. That is what slow water does. It does not shout. It just waits and rots what holds you up. I slid a bottle jack onto a solid pad, stacked cribbing blocks clean and square, and checked my level twice. Then one more time, because houses do not forgive pride. Stay back, I told her. I am back, she said. She was not. She was a step closer than she needed to be, but she stayed out of the danger zone. I turned the jack handle a little at a time. The porch groaned. Nails squealed. The railing shuddered. Then the sound changed. The weight shifted and settled, like a fist unclenching. I braced the load with a temporary post and cut away the rotten base. Mud smell rushed up, sharp and honest. I dug down until I hit the old concrete pier, cleaned it, set a new metal base with anchor bolts, dropped a fresh treated post into place and cinched it tight. When I lowered the jack, the deck did not sag. It held. Elena's breathing changed. I watched her take a slow breath and let it out, eyes fixed on the new post like it was proof she was not crazy to try. "You have been walking on that," I said. "Every day," she answered, mouth pressed tight. "And you are still here," I said. "That counts for something." She looked at me, suspicion trying to hide fear. "Why are you doing all this?" she asked. "Because you are paying me for the roof," I started. "And?" she pushed. "And because Sterling is leaning on you with his whole weight," I said. "Bad structure bothers me." Her eyes narrowed, then softened the smallest bit. She did not like needing anyone. She liked losing even less. Inside, the kitchen smelled like grilled cheese and tomato soup. Simple food, but it tasted like effort and salt. She moved around the stove like someone who had cooked tired for a long time. I fixed the stove igniter between bites. Loose wire, dirty contact, easy. She did not say thank you. She refilled my coffee without asking. That was her version. After we ate, she sat at the table with the lean notice next to her plate like it was another piece of cutlery she had to manage. She stared at the numbers for a long time. "What if we just go to the police?" she asked suddenly. "They will say it is civil," I said. "They will tell you to get a lawyer." Meanwhile, Sterling files his claim. Your bank hears half a story and gets nervous. The lien clock keeps ticking. Sympathy does not stop paperwork. Quote, her fingers tightened around the mug until her knuckles went white. "So what do we do?" she asked. It was not pleading. It was planning. "We make it boring," I said. "Boring wins in court. Certified copies. Photos. A sworn statement. A marker that does not move. The judge does not have to like you. He just has to like your proof." She looked up at me. For a second, there was nowhere for the panic to hide. Then she nodded once, small, final. "Okay," she said. "Then we make it boring." That evening, I went up on the roof anyway. Storms do not care what your contract says, and neither do leaks. Gray clouds were already stacking on the hill line. Wind carried the cold in early. From the ground, those shingles had looked fine. Up close, the edges were starting to curl. Nails had backed out here and there. The flashing at the chimney was lifted just enough to let driven rain crawl under and turn into rot. In the yard, Elena held the extension ladder steady, boots planted in the dirt. Warm air from the fixed furnace spilled out of a cracked window behind her. It felt like a quiet promise we had already kept. "You sure you're good up there?" she called. "I am better up here than in a courtroom," I called back. Her short laugh drifted up through the cold air, lighter than anything I had heard from her yet. I pulled the worst shingles, slid new ones in, sealed the flashing, and drove each nail straight and clean. No wasted hits. No show, just work. By the time I climbed down, my hands were stiff from the wind. Elena met me halfway across the porch with another mug of coffee. She held it out with both hands like she had been waiting for an excuse to offer warmth. She did not say thank you. She just watched my fingers wrap around the cup, watched my shoulders ease. "How much worse is it?" she asked. "Not worse," I said. "Just louder about it. But it will hold through this storm." Her mouth twitched. It was almost a smile. It surprised both of us. After she went upstairs, I stayed in the kitchen. I printed a simple log and wrote down what I had done that day. Photos, timestamps, materials. I stacked the pages, squared the edges, and slid them into a clear folder. If Sterling tried to turn my repairs into a story, I wanted paperwork to turn his story into nothing. While I was lining my pens on the counter, a car pulled into the drive. I heard it by the sound of the tires on gravel and the way the engine cut like the driver expected to be noticed. Mara Sterling walked up to the porch at 4 in the afternoon, right when sweat turns into results. Her car was shiny and wrong for the road. She wore a white tank, black pants, boots that had never seen mud. Her hair was perfect, phone in her hand like it was part of her arm. She did not knock on the door. She came straight to me. "Caleb," she said, smiling like we were old friends, "you didn't return my call." "I didn't get your call," I said. She laughed and tilted the phone so I could see the screen, a zoomed-in photo of me in the hardware parking lot. Elena stood next to me. Sterling's SUV sat in the background. Someone had typed a caption over it. "Ready to become a problem. Contractor Caleb seems cozy with divorced homeowner in active property dispute." The post looked like a joke, but the taste in my mouth was not funny. Behind me, the front door opened. I felt the change in the air before I heard her voice. "Hi, Mara," Elena said. Her tone was flat. Her name in Elena's mouth sounded like a warning. Mara's smile did not move. "People are talking," she said. "I thought you would want a heads up." I did not take the phone from her hand. Mara stepped closer anyway and reached out. Her fingers wrapped around my forearm with a slow, claiming pressure, like she was putting her brand on me in front of Elena. "I can help you," she said in a low voice. "If you call me back." Elena's voice cut across the porch like a crack of dry wood in a fire. "Get your hands off him." Mara blinked, surprised, then amused. "Oh, possessive already." I lifted my arm, shook her hand off without force. Her perfume clung to my skin in a way that made me want to scrub. "Put the phone away," I said. "Or what?" she asked. Her eyes were bright. She liked this. "Or you can explain to the court why you are spreading photos and stirring gossip while your husband is in an active boundary dispute," I said. "They call that interference." Beside me, I felt Elena go still. She had not expected me to speak that language. Mara's smile slipped just enough to show the edge under it. "Robert files Monday," she said to Elena. "You will miss your deadline. You will be stuck." Elena flinched, quick and unwilling. She covered it by lifting her chin. Mara turned back to me. "There are easier clients, Caleb," she said. "Ones without this much baggage." I did not look away. "Leave the property," I said. Silence dropped over the porch, not loud, heavy, her lips pressed flat. She stepped back like she had just remembered I was not on her side. "See you at the hearing," she said over her shoulder. She walked away like she had won something. The taillights disappeared down the drive. Elena stood rigid beside me until the car sound faded. Then her shoulders sagged a little. "She is going to ruin me," she whispered. "She is going to try," I said. "Eat something, then we work." She did not move right away. Her hands hung at her sides, fingers curling like she wanted to break something. Then she turned and went inside. I rinsed the mud off my hands in the sink and lined my tape, screws, and notepad back in their slots. Straight. Parallel. Small order against the noise. When Elena came back into the kitchen, she did not look me in the eye at first. She looked at the space where Mara had stood. Then she looked at my forearm like she wanted to check for marks but did not want me to notice she cared. Her jaw clenched. "I hate that she thinks she can do that," she said. "I do not," I said. Her eyes snapped up. "What?" "She tried," I said. It did not work. She let out a tight breath she had been holding somewhere low in her chest. Then she turned to the stove, opened a cupboard, and pulled out a pot. Noise and motion to keep the feeling from spilling over. When she set a bowl down in front of me, it was not gentle. It was solid. "Eat," she said. So I did. She stood close enough to feel the furnace heat, close enough that if I reached out I could have touched her hand. She said we were just friends. But the way she had snapped at Mara's touch told me there was something under that word she was not ready to name yet. Saturday morning we drove to the county records office. The building smelled like paper and old coffee. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead. A single clerk sat behind the glass, watching us the way small-town people always watch, like they are adding new lines to a story they already think they know. Her eyes went to Elena's bare left hand first, then to my work jacket, then to the way we stood, just a little closer than strangers. I kept my voice steady. "We need certified copies of the deed on Ward's property," I said, "and any old surveys on file that mention the creek line." The clerk slid a form under the glass. I filled it out, paid the fee, and waited while a printer groaned and spit out pages. Time moved slow. Sterling counted on that. I refused to let it scare me. By noon, I had a small stack of copies in my hand. Deed history, a typed land description, an old survey from decades back that mentioned a stone marker at a bend in the creek. Elena held the papers like they were something live. "Where's Hensley now?" I asked. "Outside town," she said. "Little house on Orchard Road. He doesn't pick up calls he doesn't know." "Then we don't call," I said. We drove up a cracked driveway to a house with a sagging porch that needed the same kind of mercy Elena's did. An old man opened the door with a cane in one hand and suspicion in his eyes. "Tom Hensley?" I asked. He looked at the map in my hand, then at Elena, then at me. His mouth pressed tight. "That strip is hers," he said without even sitting down. "Always was." He didn't say it like comfort, he said it like fact. Inside, he pulled a dusty field notebook out of a drawer and flipped to a page full of neat, careful lines in his own handwriting. He tapped a spot on the sketch. "Stone marker at the bend," he said. "I set my iron pin off that rock, not the other way around. If someone moved that pin, they can explain it to a judge. The rock is older than all of us." He sat at the table, pulled a clean sheet of paper toward himself, and wrote a short statement in shaky ink. He listed the date of his survey, the marker, and what he had seen. His hand shook, but the letters were clear. Elena watched his pen like it was stitching a lifeline. When he finished, he looked up at her over the rims of his glasses. "You don't let them scare you into selling your land for less than it's worth," he said. "Or your self-respect either." Her throat worked as she swallowed. She nodded once. She still didn't say thank you. It was in the way she stood a little straighter. I drove Hensley into town and walked him into a small office where a notary sat at a desk covered with stamps and pens. Paper that mattered needed someone paid to watch. Hensley signed. The notary stamped. When we stepped back out onto the sidewalk, Elena's fingers were trembling around her folder. She held it tighter and pulled herself tall again. That was her way of holding on. Sunday morning we went to the creek. The air was colder there. The water ran dark and fast, chewing at the bank. Bare branches rattled in the wind overhead. "It's not here," Elena said after 10 minutes of looking. "He was wrong, or it washed away, or Sterling." "Stop," I said gently. I walked farther down the bank and crouched near a little curve where the water bent. A flat stone sat half buried under earth and roots. Moss covered most of it. "Here," I said. She stumbled down the slope beside me, boots slipping in the wet dirt. I brushed the moss away with my glove. A shallow cross mark appeared, cut into the stone years ago by a steady hand. Elena's breath hitched. "That's it." "Photograph it," I said, "wide and close. Turn on the location stamp, then do a video. Start at the fence. Walk down so the path is clear." She pulled out her phone and did exactly what I said. Her voice was shaking at first. Then it steadied as she talked into the camera, explaining what we were seeing. We measured the distance from the rock to the old fence and to a big stump Hensley had drawn in his notes. I wrote the numbers down on the back of one of the copies and slid it into a plastic sleeve. Sterling could pay for people to talk. He couldn't pay to change the age of that stone. By the time we climbed back up, the sky was a deeper gray. Clouds were thick over the hills. The air felt wrong in that way it does before a storm. The warning hit that afternoon. Wind advisory. Heavy rain. Freeze after. We spent the rest of the day turning worry into work. I extended the downspouts with extra pipes so the water would dump farther from the foundation. Dug a shallow trench with a shovel to pull runoff away from the low side. Stacked sandbags at the crawl space vent that sat closest to the slope. Elena carried boards. Held a flashlight, handed me screws, learned my rhythm fast. When I said hold, she held. When I said back, she stepped back. It wasn't obedience. It was trust in small pieces. Inside, the furnace hummed and turned the kitchen into something that almost felt normal. Elena poured coffee and put one mug in front of me like it was habit now. "Storms used to make my ex look like a hero," she said, staring into her cup. He'd do one big loud thing, drive fast, shout a little, then disappear for a week after and leave me to fix everything else. I looked at her hands. They were steady now, but the skin around her nails was chewed raw from nights before I ever showed up. Tonight isn't about being heroic, I said. It's about not letting water win. Her mouth twitched, almost a smile. Then the house creaked and the wind started up for real. By 9 that night, the storm hit. Wind roared like a train. Rain slammed sideways into the siding. The lights flickered twice and went out. For a second, the house was dark. Then, the generator hummed to life, and the lamps flickered back on, softer and more yellow. Elena stood in the living room, with her arms wrapped around herself, staring at the windows like she expected them to break. "He could come," she said softly. "He likes storms. They give him cover." "He won't tonight," I said. "Storms also steal witnesses." A hard bang hit the side of the house. Something metal slapped against the wall again and again. "The gutter," I said. "Stay inside." "I'm not helpless," she snapped, but her voice shook. "I didn't say you were," I replied. "Boots, jacket, stay behind me." She hated those words, but she listened. Outside the yard was chaos. Rain hit my face like needles. A big limb had come down near the fence. Water rushed along the trench we had dug and broke around the sandbags instead of slamming straight into the foundation. It wasn't perfect, but it was working. A loose section of gutter at the back corner was flapping hard against the siding, held on by one screw and stubbornness. I planted the ladder and checked the feet twice. Elena stepped up behind it and wrapped both hands around the rails. Her knuckles turned white. "Do not let it shift," I said. "I won't," she answered. I climbed. The wind shoved at my back. The gutter swung and slammed again. I grabbed it with one hand and drove new screws in with the other, biting into solid wood. Each turn of the driver cut the noise down a little. A gust hit the ladder. It rocked once. Elena's boots slid in the mud and then found purchase. I felt the shift in the metal before I saw anything. "Gotcha," I said. "I've gotcha." She shot back, teeth clenched. When I climbed down, rain ran off my jacket in sheets. Elena's hair was damp, plastered to her cheeks. Her chest rose and fell fast. For 1 second she swayed, and I reached out on instinct, one hand closing around her waist to steady her. Her body went tense under my palm. Her breath caught. She did not pull away. We stood like that, both of us breathing hard, storm screaming over our heads. Inside, the heat from the furnace wrapped around us the moment we stepped back into the kitchen. The sound of the storm faded to a dull roar behind the walls. Elena's cheeks were flushed from the cold. Her hair curled at the ends. Drops of water clung to her lashes. "My ex used to vanish when things got hard," she said. Her voice was rough. "He'd promise things. He'd charm people. Then when the real work hit, he left me alone with it." Her eyes went to the divorce papers on the table. The lien notice, the envelope from Sterling, all the pieces of the mess she had been trying to carry by herself. "I can't afford to trust wrong again," she said. "I'm not asking you to," I said. "Then what are you asking?" she demanded. There was anger in her eyes, but I knew it was fear under it. I set a dry towel on the chair within her reach. Then I lined the flashlights on the counter next to the spare batteries, straight in a row. A small act, but my hands stayed steady while I did it. "I'm asking you to decide what you want," I said, "and I'll build toward that." She stared at me like she was testing every word for weak points. Then she stepped closer, slow, like she was walking toward the edge of a roof. Her hand came up and pressed flat against my chest, not grabbing, not clinging. Just checking if I was real and solid. I didn't move. Consent is not a speech. It is the space where someone could walk away and chooses not to. Her fingers curled in the fabric of my shirt, just a little. That was her answer. I leaned in slow enough for her to change her mind. She didn't. She rose up on her toes and met me halfway. The kiss was not soft at first. It was firm and urgent, like she had been holding her breath for months and finally let it out. She tasted like coffee and rain and something that felt a lot like relief. When we broke apart, she stayed close, forehead almost touching mine, breath warm on my lips. "This doesn't fix everything," she whispered. "I know," I said. "But it helps," she admitted, and the way she said it sounded like it hurt and healed at the same time. Outside, the storm kept hitting the house. Inside, the walls held. The furnace hummed steady. So did we. Monday, the storm was gone. The damage it left was not. Sterling chose the community room at Town Hall for the first round. Fluorescent lights, folding chairs, a long table that made everything feel more official than it really was. The mayor sat at the end with a notepad. A few locals pretended not to listen while they waited to pay taxes. Sterling sat like the room belonged to him. His suit was perfect. His face calm. Mara stood near the back wall with her phone down by her side, hungry eyes taking in every twitch. Elena walked in with her folder hugged to her chest. She wore jeans and a plain sweater, but she held herself like someone who had decided not to bend, even if she broke. I sat down beside her, my own folder in front of me. Sterling's lawyer slid some papers across the table. "We're offering a fair purchase to avoid litigation," he said. "Fair," Elena repeated, flat. Sterling leaned back in his chair, lacing his fingers over his stomach. "You're drowning, Elena," he said smoothly. "Take the life raft." Her jaw tightened. Her eyes flicked to the lien notice sticking out of her folder, then to me, like she was looking for anything solid to grab onto. I did not take the folder from her hands. I slid my own forward instead. "Before you talk about any updated survey," I said, "look at the original deed description and the marker evidence." The lawyer blinked. "And you are?" "Caleb," I said, "contractor, witness, the man who paid for certified copies, so we do not have to argue about rumors." I opened my packet, deed copies with stamps, Hensley's old survey. His new sworn statement. Photos of the stone at the creek. A printed page with stills taken from Elena's video, each one marked with coordinates and measurements. The lawyer's eyes moved faster. His mouth pulled tight. Across the table, Sterling's jaw flexed once. Mara's smile faltered. Sterling tried to pivot. "This man has been alone with Ms. Ward in her home during an active dispute," he said. "There are photographs. People in town are already talking." The mayor's head came up. The air in the room got thinner. Heat rose in my neck. I kept my voice even. "If Mr. Sterling wants to imply misconduct," I said, "he can do it on the record. And then he can explain why he is using gossip about a contractor and a homeowner to distract from boundary evidence. This hearing is about land, not his feelings." The mayor cleared his throat. "Mr. Sterling, do you have a response to the marker evidence?" Sterling's lawyer spoke instead. "We'll need to review," he said stiffly. "Take your time," I said. "Her lien clock doesn't." That landed. Everyone in that room knew what a clock could do to a person. The mayor looked tired, in the way people get when they have seen this kind of game before. "I'm ordering a continuance and asking the court to put this on an expedited hearing schedule," he said. "Until then, no changes to the property and no pressure on any pending sale." The meeting ended without a deal. Sterling did not get his easy signature. He did not show anger in his face, but I could see it in the way his hands gripped the back of his chair. In the hallway, Elena finally let her breath shake. Her shoulders slumped for half a second before she caught herself. "We didn't win," she said. "We didn't lose either," I said. "We bought something." "What?" she asked. "Time," I said. "Time is structure." Sterling stepped out into the hall. His smile was back in place. "You're persistent, Elena," he said. "I'll give you that." I moved a half step in front of her. I did not touch him. I just blocked the path of his eyes. "Talk to your lawyer," I said, "not to her." Sterling's gaze slid to me, hard now. "You think you're her savior?" he asked. "I think you're a bully with paperwork," I said quietly. His smile sharpened. "Bully or not, I still win." He walked away like he believed it. I watched him go, then turned back to Elena. "If your bank calls," I said, "they do not get to. Check in, over the phone. Make them put everything in writing. No surprises. No soft threats. If they want to change terms, they sign their name to it." Her eyes met mine. Something like respect flickered there. She did not smile. She did not say much. She just nodded once. The hearing came fast. The courtroom was not big. Rows of wooden benches, a raised desk for the judge, a flag, a clock that ticked loud in the quiet. Sterling sat on one side with his lawyer. Elena sat on the other with her folder. I sat behind her, close enough to reach forward if she needed a document. Sterling's lawyer tried to call the stone an informal marker. Hensley's affidavit and the deed description did not care about that. The judge looked at the certified copies, the map, the photos, and then at Hensley's written statement. "Mr. Sterling," the judge said, "you do not get to redraw a line because it would benefit your future project." Sterling's jaw clenched. "I'm issuing a temporary injunction," the judge said. "You are not to interfere with Ms. Ward's access, repairs, or sale while the survey review is finalized. No more contact, outside counsel. No more games. We will set a review date. Until then, that strip stays where the deed put it." He banged his gavel once. It sounded like a nail being driven all the way in. Outside on the courthouse steps, the air felt thin and high. Elena stood on the landing and sucked in a breath like she had been underwater and just hit the surface. "We bought time," she said. "Yeah," I said. "We did." Across the street, Sterling stood by his SUV, talking low to Mara. His face was smooth again, but his eyes were hard. Mara's phone was in her pocket for once. She looked smaller than she had on the porch. "I still want to sell," Elena said beside me. "I still want out from under the debt." "Good," I said. "Wanting out is not weak." Her jaw tightened. "But I don't want this to be another thing I run from because someone scares me into it." I stepped closer, careful, not boxing her in. Just close enough to feel her breathing. "I don't want a clean slate," I said. "I want a foundation." Her breath caught. She looked at me like the words were a beam she could test with her weight. "I can do that," she said slowly. "Start over, but on something solid." Then she did something I did not expect. She rose on her toes and kissed me right there on the courthouse steps. Quick, firm, no hiding. No excuse. Her hand was on my chest. Mine was at her waist. When we broke apart, the world was still there. Sterling was still across the street. The debt still existed. But she had chosen where to stand. She slid her hand into mine after that. Her shoulders dropped a little, like she had finally put one foot on something that did not move. 2 weeks later, the title company called. Their email said what we already knew on paper. The survey review matched the old description. The stone marker held. Sterling's claim died in a stack of documents that did not care about his money or his ego. The bank confirmed the sale a day after that. The offer on Elena's house went through at a real price, not the bargain fire sale Sterling had tried to force. After closing costs and fees and the long, ugly list from the divorce, what was left in her account was not a fortune. It was freedom. She stood in her kitchen staring at her phone screen. The furnace hummed. The porch did not creak under my boots anymore. Rain from a small shower ran down the new downspout and away from the foundation like water was finally listening. "It's gone," she whispered. "The lien, the debt, all of it." "You're free," I said. Her jaw tensed. Her eyes turned bright. She crossed the small space between us fast and pressed her forehead to my chest. Her hands bunched in my shirt, not to pull me closer, just to feel something solid. I wrapped my arms around her waist. Firm, steady, careful, like bracing a wall that had finally stopped shuddering. "What now?" she asked, into my shirt. "Now you decide," I said. "Where you want to go, what you want to build." She leaned back, just enough to look up at me, her mouth curved in a small, real smile. Then, "Stay," she said. I did not answer with a speech. I bent my head and kissed her slow this time. No storm, no court date hanging over us. Just two people in a warm kitchen with the furnace running, and the future not trying to crush them. When we broke apart, I glanced toward the porch. "Tomorrow," I said. "We finish the last trim on the railing. Make it look like it was never in danger." She laughed, a soft, real sound I had been waiting weeks to hear without strain in it. "Of course you would say that," she said. "I'm good at making things stop falling apart," I said. Her fingers slid between mine and stayed there like they had always belonged. Outside, the creek ran quiet around the bend where the old stone sat, doing its only job, holding a line. Inside, the furnace hummed. The walls did not rattle. The porch did not sag. She had once told everyone we were just friends. But when another woman had put her hands on me, she had snapped like someone defending something that mattered. Now she did not pretend anymore. The house held. The land held. Her life stopped sliding, and so did we.